just off camera there having a wee debate on why Dundee United are called the Arabs, and I said it's because their pitch is sandy, and I'm not believed by people inside this room. So I'm just putting it in chat GBT, why are Dundee United called the Arabs, right? Put it in, what's it coming up with? It dates back to 1960s. Poor form, struggled to attract crowds.
What's that got to do with Arabs?
I could be miles off it. Wait a minute. To boost attendances, the club's local fans began lightheartedly campaign suggesting that attending matches at Tannadice was as exotic as visiting faraway lands. At the same time, Scotland experienced an unusual hot, dry summer and Tannadice pitch became hard and dusty. People joked it looked like a desert. There we go. I thought I was miles away. Fans referring to going to matches a trip to Arabia. And the team themselves became known as the Arabs. Bang.
I can't believe you needed to use your phone for that after you've played up there. I thought you'd know all the history of the club.
Do you see how bad my reading was there? When I used to get asked to read out in front of the class,
I was getting a bit sweaty watching you there.
Aye. See when they would shout your name in class when you were reading a book, they'd go, right, Charlie, read the next read the next page. You were like, sorry, miss, what page am I on? I lost my page there. And then you would have to read the pressure.
In front of everybody.
Danny, the champion of the world. Did you ever read that?
No.
About the pheasants? You read that, Dave? Roald Dahl. Beautiful story, mate. Start reading that tonight.
Welcome back to the breakdown, eh?
Good to be back. So
didn't think we'd start talking about
that sandy pitch was a disgrace. So that's why they're called the Arabs. I was right there. I thought I was going down a path there. I was miles away. I don't know where I'd heard that, but
like it.
Tom, we're delighted to bring our new partners, Talk Sport Bet, as we keep growing the podcast. Obviously, he's on about Talk Sport, but he's might not know about Talk Sport Bet. They're one of the biggest bookies in the UK, and Ali McCoy's an ambassador.
There's a surprise Coysty's involved, isn't there?
Aye. He's in about everything, isn't he?
Brilliant. What, man?
Coysty, man. Brilliant. We're delighted to say they're sponsors for the rest of the season, mate. And they've got a brilliant offer for the breakdown viewers and listeners. Right? Bet £10 and get 40 quid in free bets. So if you bet a tenner, you're getting £40 free bets. That's good, isn't it?
What an offer.
£40 in free bets. Just head to talksportbet.com/breakdown to get involved. And it's not just that. They've got massive super boosts, daily price boosts, and best odds guaranteed on horses too.
I like the GGs.
So don't miss out. Do you like a wee horse bet?
I used to own the horses, didn't we?
So you did, aye.
I like the horse. I never win, but
you still put a bet on,
which is great for TalkSport Bet.
I put a good coupon at the weekend with TalkSport Bet. 4 draws I went for.
Draws.
Brilliant odds, by the way. It's the best about.
Good odds.
Not one draw came in. I've got 40 quid in free bets.
I love it.
Buzz. So don't miss out. Go to talksportbet.com/breakdown and claim the offer now. 18 plus, T's and C's apply.
What a deal. Get involved.
Big weekend.
Every weekend's a big weekend.
I want to start I'm into Scottish rugby now. I've went for the rugby tap. So just talk about rugby podcast.
Loving it.
You happy with it?
Well, it's not great being a Scotland rugby fan and a Celtic fan now, is it?
Aye, it's if it was sick me, that's how much I want to go to rugby.
Just chucked it.
Oh, mate.
I know, to be fair, I never seen
Celtic now, they need to win every game, don't they?
Were you going to say they cannot win the league though?
No, they can't slip up and they need to win every game.
It's amazing how last week I thought Celtic were the favourites. Off the back of Hearts dropping against Killie, back to 2 points. Celtic, Rangers and Hearts still having to go to Celtic Park, albeit both of them have been there and won this season. And then we get to another week, another Monday for another podcast, and it's the narrative's changed. Who's your favourites now?
As I've said for a few weeks now, it's Hearts. Hearts is to lose.
Still think Hearts are favourites over Rangers?
Aye, Hearts is to lose. It's theirs to lose. They need to. They can't lose it for here, surely.
The goal difference is going to become massive.
I've been getting some stick.
Did you like my photo?
My point. No. Did you think I would have reshared it?
I knew you would, because I knew what you're like. I knew you would, because I know you love the banner.
How good is it? How somebody made that?
My missus done it for me.
So
she was
good.
like, I was like, can you put Charlie in a heart strip? And she was like, I know, I wouldn't know where to start. She was like, get me a photo of Charlie.
Do you know the funny thing is? See, when I was coming back up the road to move back up here, I tried to obviously reach out to a few clubs to say I was coming back up.
Did you speak to her?
And I spoke to Robbie Nielsen. And
Big Jig would have been there at the same time, would he?
who?
Big Jig, Lee McCulloch.
Aye, he was there.
Aye.
And he showed a bit of interest, and he said potentially do it. And then I signed for my wife at the time.
Hopefully Alana doesn't listen to this.
I was trying to say at the time my wife. Oh fuck! Right, we need to start this podcast now.
That's staying in.
That
mate.
needs to be cut.
That's not getting edited. Next week, Monday morning.
As if I'm on my third marriage. She decided she wanted to stay down there, so I went to Fleetwood instead. And then when I came back up the road,
Forgetting you went to Fleetwood.
because she wanted to stay down there, so then I was down there for 2 more months, and then she went, I think we should go back up
And it's
the road.
quite close to Blackburn, isn't it?
Aye.
Aye.
So went back. Well, I stayed closer actually to Fleetwood than I did to Blackburn. And then she said, I want to go back up the road, and family aren't getting any younger, whatever. So I went back up the road, and I reached out to Robbie Nielsen, but didn't
I
happen.
think my room would have suited you, mate. I think my room would have suited you.
Nah, no chance.
Then I wouldn't have had to get my mate. I could have just
Glad
went
that
into
never
Google
happened.
and found you in a heart strip. By the way, that's that. I know we're joking about it, but that pint and Gorgie, mate, is becoming.
It's closer, isn't it?
You getting nervous now?
But do you know I've been in a. So I was at. Remember Bruni's surprise 30th?
Aye, we've spoken about that before, haven't we? The corn exchange. Oh, by the way, I forgot.
Did I speak about how I nearly get battered that night?
I forgot. Hand on heart, I forgot to tell you that I met the guy that stopped you from getting a beer that night in Marks and Spencer's.
Who? Luke?
No, Luke. So one of Luke's mates. He's actually Scotty McNaughton's mate. I just didn't get the boy's name. He's got an uphold. I'll give him a bit of plugging.
Did he tell you the story?
He told us. He said that there was a couple of wrong-uns outside and you were getting a bit of abuse.
I went next door to a Hearts bar.
Aye, to the boozer.
And I sat in there myself.
I'm sure he said that he tried to throw you into a taxi, and then you ended up back.
Potentially me, aye.
He goes, oh, I'm loving the podcast. And I was like, oh, brilliant, mate. And I didn't know who the lad was. He's like, oh, next time you see Charlie, I said, I see him every Monday. He says, he's mentioned that.
So I like a wee wander when I've had a few beers. Bruni's surprised 30th, and I went, I'm a wee wander. So I wandered outside, and I seen this pub next door, and I jumped in, and I got myself a beer, and I sat down. I mean, that sums me up. There's a party next door, and I've went to sit myself for a bit. Don't think I'm the best in crowds. I like that. Like sometimes like a wee bit of quietness. And next minute I just started getting like sort of, you start to feel a bit
tension.
And then I managed to get out of the situation quite quick, but it escalated. They've never liked me.
I think when you see some of the comments,
I'm going to need a crash helmet.
Yeah. And by the way, brilliant result for them. To be fair, I thought they were.
I refreshed it every 30 seconds. I was at my daughter's dancing, and I was.
The longer it was going, you thought they'd potentially maybe drop points. But
dying for me drop points. I mean, I was.
Keep on getting over the line, though, mate. Keep on getting over the line.
How many times? I've never seen a team win 1-0 so many times in a season.
I didn't quote me on it, but I think that's 4 of the last 4 home games. I think they've won 1-0.
Unbelievable. See, when you look back at the goal, right? We spoke about it last week. The Dundee United too high a line. Too deep a line for the. Dundee. A week later, did the exact same thing. They're on their 18-yard line as the free kick's about to be taken, and you can see them try to usher it up, but they need to be 5 yards higher for me, because that Oisin McAdee heads the ball for like fucking 7 yards out, and you're like, that should be 12 yards out, so the keepers get time to adjust. I think it's a poor line, and then the way it's floated in, it's like it's no bent, it's like a ping for Leonard. If they're higher, he needs to ping that wider.
They're no for stopping, are they?
No.
Devlin back, Shanklin back on as a sub.
Big boost for the minute.
Huge, mate. Huge.
Do you think they'll do it? Or Rangers are feeling Rangers are feeling confident?
Aye, I think if you ask me next Monday, it's international break coming up, obviously, but the next again set of fixtures, you could change your opinion again, couldn't you?
Here's one for you, right? I met a guy out on Sunday morning, walking the dogs, right? And this guy represents, I would say, a couple of the older generation Celtic fans. He's quite stern in his opinions. He's quite good to talk to. Get a wee feel for what certain people in the fan base could potentially be feeling. I think there's a section of Celtic fans, right, that want Hearts to win the league. There's one for you.
Well, I think
the reason being is because they want to prove their point about the board.
Aye, but they obviously didn't. Surely most Celtic fans would want Hearts to win it rather than Rangers.
I'm talking about Hearts to win it rather than Celtic.
Oh, right. Oh, wow.
There's one for you.
Oh, wow.
This guy said to me,
I'm not having that, mate.
You're not having that?
Nah,
what are you thinking, Dave?
They've won 13 in the last 14 titles, man, Celtic. It's like...
I honestly think that they think if Hearts win the league, they think that potentially there'll be that much of a disaster that they'll get changes within the club. Thoughts on that, Paul?
I'm surprised at that, mate. Yeah. I'm surprised at that.
You can't see what happening?
I can't see if they finish third, full-scale directorial changes because the fans won't give up their season tickets.
I don't think there'll be changes either, but do you not think that that's what some fans will think are the best chance of getting a change?
I think it's a terrible idea. Though if they finish third, they've got Conference League. They're going to be playing 4 playoff games to get into it. Revenue will be decreased. 3 playoff games. If they don't win the Scottish Cup, it's not a great idea. I think it's cutting off your nose to spite your face.
I don't think it's a good idea, but do you think that I'm accurate in what I'm saying about the older fans, or do you think that I'm using one guy's opinion and because his words to me were, I think Hearts will win the league. He says, don't get me wrong, I would rather they won it than Rangers. I still want Celtic to win the league, but I don't mind if Hearts win it ahead of Rangers. And I'm thinking, to me, that sounds like there's a group of fans, there's certain fans that would prefer Hearts to win the league than Celtic to win the league.
I know, but
to give the board a proper shake-up.
Listen, I think there will be changes moving forward because they've obviously voiced their opinion for. It's not just
who's going to change though.
It's not been a knee-jerk reaction. This is it. It's been festering for a wee while.
Look at that squad. There's no a striker in there, Tomo. Johnny Kenny's the top scorer with 6 goals. He's not even at the club. As
a neutral, mate, I see the frustration. As someone that's looking at the success that Celtic's had, no being a fan, I'm thinking like, there's multiple trebles in there. Do you know what I mean? There's title after title after title after title. There's like cup final after cup final after cup final after cup final, and it has been a really unique season for Celtic in respect to like Brendan moving, Nonsi coming in, Martin O'Neill coming back, which probably a year ago, if somebody said, "Oh, Martin O'Neill's going to be back as the interim manager of the Celtic Football Club," people would be like, "Oh no, there's no chance." Mm-hmm. So it has been strange, and I'm just trying to be put into perspective as not a Celtic fan, but I look at Celtic as a football club and how successful they've been, and there's always that wee bit of green-eyed monster in the success that they've had, if that makes sense. Well, and I know you always continue have to win to it, but you've also got other teams, another huge club across the city that want to win as much as you do. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't know all the ins and outs, obviously, because I'm not a Celtic fan, but I know they're a brilliant club. I know they're steeped in history. And I've been
the first to say there's Celtic have been like what they've done over the last 25 years has been unbelievable, right? For somebody who grew up watching the 90s, Rangers just completely dominating. What Celtic have done obviously was part of a lot of that success, or some of that success, played a small part in it. It's unbelievable, and I think the board deserve credit for that. But I think the last 2 years, there's definitely been... Paul Tidsdale's been a big mistake. John Kennedy leaving the club's huge mistake. Recruitment department's been shown for what it is, and I think for me, it's shown that John Kennedy obviously had a big part to play in some of the signings in terms of giving the green light to some, the red light to others. You'll know he's no good enough. He is here. He obviously had a big say in that over the course of Ange Postecoglou, over the course of Brendan Rodgers. first time, second time. Reason why Ange Postecoglou took no coach anywhere, but was what to take him to John Kennedy to Tottenham. That was blocked. All of a sudden, Tisdale comes in, has a nightmare, brings Nonce in, gets rid of John Kennedy. I think that's a two. Tisdale coming in and John Kennedy leaving, for me, is exposed so much under the surface at Celtic in terms of recruitment and stuff that, I mean, when you go through the signings, they still had a January to resurrect, to get a striker in.
I think January, I think for a fan's perspective, was a sore one for them. But you go on about recruitment, like you think of like Kyogo, Hatate. I know these boys are meant to be on big wages, etc. Hatate's still there, but like you think of the premium that they got for Jota. So like it's not all been sour grapes as such, you know what I mean? An Ange Postecoglou team doesn't feel, maybe for a Celtic fan it feels a million miles away, but to me it doesn't feel as though it was that long ago. No. You know how electric they were and how brilliant they were to watch, and you know how ruthless they were as a team, and then how successful they were. And the recruitment under Ange Postecoglou was, so like it feels as though like the wheels have come off in people's opinion quite quickly. And
I think that people complain about the pitch yesterday. The pitch was a disaster yesterday. It's a leveller. And I've been the first to say it's
you. I know you wouldn't want that as an excuse, though.
No, you can't. It's just because even if you think, we can't play our football in there, well, you need to find a different way.
100%.
But I've seen Ange Postecoglou's teams come to Tannadice and played against them at Tannadice, and the pitch has been a disaster, and they've still managed to get over the line.
And I think the worry for Celtic is, I know Callum's missed a couple of weeks, but coming back into the team, you know, getting taken off on the hour mark. Like, was he fit enough to play?
It was the right decision.
Well, I don't. My humble opinion is if Callum McGregor's fit to play a minute, you've got him on the pitch. But it now looks as though it's, I don't know if he's been taken off in the respect that they were only wanting to get an hour off him. They hoped that they would be in front and then they could see the game out.
What I will say about an Achilles injury, having had an Achilles injury, the biggest, one of the biggest sort of things that flares it up or irritates it is changes of surface. So if you're playing in sand, if you let it to grass, to basically that was sand yesterday, wasn't it? Sand to Astro, it really irritates it. And
so you think it was a bad decision to play him? Listen, we've got hindsight, haven't we?
A bad
if you're
decision
the manager of Celtic and Callum was fit and you're going to Dundee United and you've only got 8 games to go, whether the pitch has got no grass in it or whether it's a sand pit, you're playing him, aren't you?
I know. But the other argument would be he was that good again. They were that good against Motherwell. Do you just continue the same team and play him the last half an hour when you maybe potentially need him? Sorry, in hindsight, when you get hindsight, if I'm the manager and he's on he's available for 60.
I presume he's still fit after getting his.
I think so. I think it's precaution. I'm guessing, but I think it was. But for me, the striker's a big issue. I mean, where was Vinchara yesterday? Unwell or something? Somebody said.
For Dundee United to have been huffing and puffing, I thought Dundee United were excellent in the derby, but and obviously excellent in the game. But for a team that's maybe been really inconsistent, albeit they've already beat Celtic at Tannadice under obviously Nonce, but I expected Celtic to go and win off the back of the Motherwell result, but it just shows you
they have even
twists and turns. Well, I think that would be the worry for Martin O'Neill or for Celtic fan perspective, like the away from home games, how many opportunities they turn over. And I'm being really respectful to Dundee United because I thought they were excellent, but to turn over the opportunities they did to Dundee United, it has to be a worry.
It's got to be. I mean, Dundee United, I'm taking that away from them. I thought some of their players, Ross Graham, centre half, won a lot of headers. For me, Will Ferry,
excellent.
Very good player.
Excellent.
I've seen quite a bit of him, having done a lot of the games for Premier Sports, and Dundee United seem to pop up a lot. He's their big threat on the left hand side.
Both wing backs are good, aren't they?
Aye, Stevenson's good as well. Boy got for Liverpool.
Aye, I was the same. I hadn't watched Dundee United that much, but when I watched them in the Dundee derby, I thought the two wing backs were catalysts for everything that Dundee United done well. Both full energy, modern day full back stroke wing backs. Both good on the ball, both can handle it. Both obviously got that final third quality when they do get into the areas. You know what I mean? Whether it's delivery or whether it's chipping in with a goal here or there.
I think he could play for Celtic or Rangers.
I thought they were excellent.
I think you're talking about recruitment. He starts with in Scotland. So you look at your players you've got there.
I didn't think United are going to get there for their perspective to the top 6. I know obviously with Falkirk having the disappointing result, it's gave them
they've got a 7 goal. They need to have a 7 goal.
6 points obviously, I know.
And 6 points, so they need 7 goal turnover. They're not going to do that, are they?
No, and I think I wouldn't have thought. But then listen, it's the way the season's going. You would never TalkSport bet wouldn't bet against it, mate.
Nah. What odds is that, Dave? Get that up. Dundee United to finish top 6. TalkSport bet.
Might get a big price boost in that one, but it's I think for Jim Goodwin, off the fair play to his team and Tim and his staff, like he looks sick after the Dundee derby, doesn't he?
They players would have known,
and then he bounced into Celtic off the back of that. It showed a great mentality and a resilience and a togetherness, because I think sometimes you can. When you end up looking like you're not going to make top 6, which probably is expected of a Dundee United fan perspective and a club, if they were going to fall short, they've probably not had a brilliant season. But now they go and get a big result against Celtic. I thought they were brilliant in the derby.
I think it suited them, because when you play in a pitch like that and you're no used to playing short passes and you play long, you pick up second balls, you're going to beat the team that it's a leveler, isn't it?
Aye, no, listen, and they're good at it. You have to. There's different ways to win a game of football as such, and I think from a Celtic perspective, when you talk about having that mentality, which really cannot be questioned for how successful they've been, but now the climax of the season is here, 7 games to go, it's a real kick in the teeth for them, isn't it?
They need to be perfect now, don't they? They need to be. Would you say they need to win every single game? That takes them to 82 points, I'm sure. Is that right, Dave? If Celtic won 7.
I cannot see them winning the league now, mate. Yeah, I've genuinely thought they were favourites last week.
It's mad.
Mad.
It's crazy.
Well, they were the bookies' favourites last week, because we spoke about it. And as you say, like some excellent bits against Motherwell, but I genuinely never seen it coming. No, like when you feel as though like it's a potential banana skin. And I know the pitch, and I know we've mentioned it a few times, but I genuinely thought Celtic would go up to Tannadice and win. That's
the issue now for me. Every single game, you look at it, you think, you get in for Celtic, you don't know what they're going to bring. You know, they were brilliant yet last week against Motherwell, a good Motherwell team, and then Dundee United, I mean, that's a team where you need to go and no disrespect Dundee United, but they've been conceding goals this year. They've not been holding on to leads. You need to go in there and win that game. So now you're going, right, 7 games to go. That could, I honestly stand back. I think Celtic need to win 7 of them. Because I think Hearts are they're going to keep moving. They've proved they'll bounce back.
The top 6.
A couple of times I've thought that they've gone, and they're there. Rangers must be fancying it now. How was that game?
I thought they were excellent, mate. I was there, obviously, doing Rangers TV. I thought they were, I'm saying excellent, actual, in a good way, in a complimentary way. I think they've still got more to go. They scored some excellent goals. It's probably the first time I've actually seen a few of the questions like what is Danny Rowe's style, and we've obviously spoke about it at different times, but I thought Nico Raskin was had one of his best games in recent weeks. He's come under the microscope a wee bit for maybe not quite being as good as we all know he's all capable of. I think the boy Romans, mate, has been, in my opinion, sometimes not as flashy as others, and maybe doesn't quite get the headlines. Obviously popped up with a big goal against St Mirren last week, but what he does for Mikey Moore on that left side and how much they utilise that left side, whether he goes in, which is something that we've not really seen that much of a Danny Rowe team, goes into that inverted fullback, allows Mikey Moore to drop wider.
Better than Lee Wallace?
Oh. He's not quite Sasha Papic level yet.
Nah.
He's a different player.
See, I said Lee Wallace, I thought Wallace was better than Papic.
Oh, that would split the opinion, that, like.
So Papic or Lee Wallace, let me know your thoughts there.
Oh.
I'm going big Lee because...
No party, no Papic, mate. No Papic, no party. It's
Papic,
Sasha,
he was the most steady left back in the world, wasn't he?
Centre back, wasn't he? Converted fullback, but really successful at Rangers, mate.
He
Obviously,
was.
Listen, Big Waldo, absolutely brilliant. Both brilliant, but listen, if you were putting the gun to my head, I would struggle to get away from Sasha. It's hard because I played with Sasha.
Putting the
Mulgrew
double barrel.
But by the way, Romans, a real astute signing, mate. Mikey Moore, man, 18-year-old, mate. Like,
He's a good player, man.
He is a joy to watch when he's in full flow. He's got lovely balance. He's elegant. He sees a pass. He's a game changer. He's a risk taker.
I thought it was a bad start of the season. I thought you've signed a wee boy there. You're not going to get. And then for me, the moment for me was at the semi-final against Celtic. I thought he looks like a man here. When Roll's first game, I think it was.
He does. He looks like he's got a bit thicker set. Like he probably hasn't. Maybe it's just because he's grown and he's personal. He's got good head and shoulders. Probably, aye, Mars bar and bar.
Put some Guinness, aye, on yourself.
But maybe he has. Maybe he's put on a few kilos, mate. I don't know. He does. He looks body contact. He looks stronger. I thought, especially under Russell Martin, he was receiving the ball really deep and trying to swivel away from pressure. Teams were getting after Russell Martin's team because they knew what they were going to do. I would say Danny Rowe's teams are a wee bit less predictable. They do mix it up at times. I was saying it on commentary, like Tav maybe overhit a few. The first goal obviously comes Chukwueze, who I thought was good as well. But the long ball for Raskin, brilliant ball. Loban, the young fullback at Aberdeen, just gets caught a wee bit. Romans kind of picks his pocket, gets in behind. Mikey Moore involved, hits it left peg, ricochets. It's a brilliant. Have you seen the finish? It's a brilliant finish, mate. Edge of the box. Actually, it's a wee bit further out for the edge of the box than I thought. I thought it was like just on the 18-yard line, but it was 2 or 3 yards.
How's that one in?
He's kind of scuffs it a wee bit, but I think he has to kind of hit it into the ground. He scuff it a wee bit to one of the ones. If he probably strikes it clean and straight,
he's been a good signing, isn't he? We talk about recruitment. Romans, Chukwueze are 2 players for me that Nadiri as well. Like, although he's not been amazing, he looks effective.
Aye, I spoke to Mikey after the game, and he was. I can see the criticism that Shermiti and Nadiri get. Even Miovski, mate, come on and look lively and hungry to try and get in the team. So the firepower that Antman come on and was impactful. I thought Gassama come on and looked like the player that we all know he is. Yeah, I was at Livingston only a few weeks ago and he got jeered off the pitch.
You see him go body to body with the Aberdeen right back before the...
Strong as an ox, mate. And he's like, when he's in full flow, he's another one that's like, I think he liked how good he was under Russell in Europe at the start of the season. He was prolific.
He was one player, wasn't he? Looked good.
He was, aye. So I think there's a lot of optimism there. The nervous part for a Rangers perspective is they've got into striking distance and then they've had the draw against Motherwell, they've had the draw against Livingston, and they've maybe never quite got to the heights they hit in top of the league. Obviously Hearts have been there to be shot at for so long now, but leaving Ibrox, going back to my car, it's probably the first time that I've felt Rangers fans really believe they could get over the line.
Convincing win, isn't it?
And listen, for an Aberdeen perspective, mate, I thought they were absolutely honking.
I think they'll go down.
They're a real worry, but yet I thought for 10-15 minutes when he made the subs, Keskinen, Olasanya, Jensen come on, was impactful on the right side. They actually looked like they could be a threat. Olasanya is what you'd expect, like powerful, robust.
I'm hearing some Aberdeen players are on plus 10 grand a week, mate.
Listen, mate,
that's madness.
For 45 minutes I thought they were really, really passive and really poor. And then for that 10-15 minutes, if you can hold on to that for an Aberdeen perspective, that will give them a bit of hope. But if you're Stephen Robinson and Kerzo, you would be worried, mate, because the way they performed, albeit they got the game and it was a bit of a sucker punch. They got the goal, which went 2-1, which a wee bit of a sucker punch for how dominant Rangers were. Scoring probably the worst start you could ask for is conceding that second goal straight in the stroke of half time, the flippy half time. And for Danny Rowe and his boys, it's the perfect start really to get that second goal to then go and kick on. I mentioned on commentary a few times that I thought goals, when you have a team where you want them, obviously it's the first time in a long time that Rangers have flipped goal difference on Hearts as well, which I think will be another key thing leading into the end of the season. I think goals are going to be massive, mate. So when you do get the opportunities at home, whether it be Hearts, the 1-0s are obviously not quite getting them the goals that they would hope. Obviously the 3 points is first and foremost, but I left, mate, thinking that when I got in my car and I spoke to my dad on the way home, I'm like, Rangers are right where they want to be. Whereas I've thought maybe for the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks that they were maybe just going to fall short. But can they win a league?
Of course they can.
Who would you rather win the league? Hearts or Rangers?
None of them. Just cancel the league this year. It's been a disaster. Just call it quits. Keezies. Start again next year. Start again, it's my ball. Start again. It's no fair. Non-seed doesn't count.
Seriously, Mogger's guns to your head.
Start again, weird nonsense. That wasn't fair. That was Paul Tidsdale. He doesn't count. Start again.
Third week in May or second week in May. I think the Scottish Cup might be the third week in May. Who's
So Rangers won the league, right? Here we go.
No, I want you to answer. Who
Right,
would
I'll come back in a minute. I just want to give you my thoughts here. If Rangers win the league, I think Rangers go and spend and they go and try and dominate for the next few years. So Rangers winning the league, I think I dread to think what that could do going forward in terms of European money spending. I think they would go for it. There's no guarantees, but I wouldn't like to think there'd be a start of a decade or a few years of Rangers dominating. Hearts win the league, and it's basically a Leicester in it. It'll be like a...
You can't see them backing it up.
Nah, they'll not back it up. I don't know what my forfeit will be if they back it up.
That's on record now, mate.
I just think if Rangers win, listen, I'd need to say hand on heart here. I prefer Hearts to win it than Rangers.
Would you?
Aye. Just for what's coming in the next.
You'd rather go to Gorgie and celebrate with the Hearts fans?
I think I would need to take the hit for this season. I'd need to take the hit for what I said. I would need to take the 8 points clear. I said Celtic would be clear in March. We're now nearly the end of March, and I would need a 20-point deduction for Hearts. Find something they've done.
So you'd rather Hearts win it than Rangers?
Rather Hearts. I think that Hearts win it. They don't follow up. Dale McInnes probably leaves because he gets a job. I say if Hearts win the league, Dale McInnes to Scotland manager next year.
Oh. Interesting to hear Steve Clarke talking about he has to wait to see what offers come in.
He's gone next year.
100%. It sounds like he wants to.
He's away. And I think fair play to him. He's done brilliant. I think Scotland maybe should try and keep him.
But Dale at this stage of his life would.
Dale's next Scotland manager for me.
Yeah.
I think he takes the job if Hearts win the league.
Interesting.
And potentially even if they don't.
Surely Tony Bloom and the Jamestown would offer him a contract that would prize him to stay at Tynecastle, no?
Well, that would be the thing if he gets a good offer.
But the problem is, well, it's a nightmare for a Hearts perspective. If Dale leaves after winning the league and they do a Leicester, God forbid the next Hearts manager, the expectation and trying to obviously match.
And here's one for you. Dale McInnes, would he follow Steve Clarke or would he wait for the timing to be a bit better?
Well,
that could be a shout.
I know. They're going to be really competitive in the World Cup. How
do you follow Steve Clarke?
How do you follow that squad as well? Like, your John McGinns, your McTominays, like...
Do you think he's picked a good squad?
Robbo's... What, this?
Do you agree with his squad? Do you agree with Hearts players not being in the Scotland squad?
I feel for them, because you feel for, as an ex-player, obviously, professionals,
There's been a wee bit between... Clarke said that they're only doing well because they're in a good team. I don't want to quote him on that, but he's hinted towards that.
Well, listen, delighted for Finn Curtis to get a 19-year-old boy. He was like, Finn was 12 when I first started at Rangers. He was actually in me and Greg Statt's first 06 team. To now see him, like, and I've been to Milan with him, I've been to Germany with him, like on different trips. Got like a nice coffee. Yeah. So delighted to see Finn, like, brilliant lad. And if we talk about being humble and being hardworking and having a bit about you as a young lad, he's catalyst. He's catalyst for that, mate. Like,
what's his attributes? What would you say?
Well, he's predominantly, when he was a younger lad, he played through the middle as a 9, mate.
Well, he's in the squad as a forward.
And he is an attacking minded player. He obviously played off the left at times for Russell Martin. He's played there for Danny Rowe. He's come on as a sub, kind of in that front line. But I heard I think it might have been Scotty Allen talking about him. I done the podcast last night for the BBC, and Scotty was talking about when you didn't have Ben Doak, the front line for Scotland doesn't have any real speed in it, really. Right. That's not saying that the lads are slouches, obviously, but when you think of the personnel and the pro...
I'm not saying he's a slow, but
he's just obviously different. So maybe he's looking at that like one key attribute. or that profile of player that can get them
We
up
struggle
the
for
pitch.
wingers, don't we? We play with wingers, that's what's mental.
Aye, I know.
Like we only have Finlay Curtis.
I know.
Now, Doak's injured.
Is Doak going to be?
Barnes
is he going to be fit?
Chose England. What?
Is he going to be fit?
Don't know. He's
Is that still for that same hamstring injury when he hurt it in the national team? Is it?
I must have.
Obviously, it was a bad
I think it was a bad.
Aye, well, to get stretchered off, obviously for a hamstring, it's a bad one.
You weren't quick enough to do your hammy, were you? I done my hammy a few times.
I had more chance to do my hammy, put my socks on, mate, than I did.
I done it a few times.
Overstretching.
Don't know how I done my hammy. I had a good few times.
No, but it's brilliant for the night. Actually, we're talking about the national team, even though we've went off curve a wee bit, but it's for Derek McInnes.
You've avoided that really well there. Should Hearts players be in the Scottish team?
Aye. So
who would you put in?
You feel for guys like Halkett. I think he would be the.
Who would you take out?
He'd be the main one.
Hanley.
See, Hanley's been brilliant for Hibs, mate. But Halkett's obviously, you could argue, on the way up, and Hanley's at the tail end of his career. But I think Steve Clarke, there'll be an element of. I think we'd be the same if you were there. There'll be an element of who got us there. Some people shouting at the podcast, just pick the best players, the best form players or whatever. But I think there's a bit of loyalty in that there as well.
So my opinion on it is Steve Clarke's job is who's going to integrate with the squad the best, right? Who does he trust? These are all things he's got to have in his mind.
Aye.
Who does he trust? Who is a manager? As a manager, when you put a player on the pitch and he does well for you, you gain a trust in him. To then swap it over, I think, for example, if you're swapping Hanley and Halkett, you need to be sure that you've got somebody that's coming in that's a lot better and then hope, but you know what I mean? But if you'd see if Hanley played for Hearts, they would still be in the same position.
I know what you mean.
I know it's impossible to say, but...
Well, Hanley's perspective, he'd be like, listen, he'll back himself to be a better player than Halkett.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whether Hibs are sitting 5th in the league and Hearts are sitting
And I really like Halkett.
I know.
I think Halkett's a right good player.
I think their time will come.
So let's be honest, right? Who's at a realistic opportunity that Dale's no happy with? Halkett, Finlay, anybody else?
Well, you've obviously got boys like Harry Milne.
Harry Milne's another one.
Had a brilliant season, do you know what I mean?
But realistically, where's he getting in?
And he was one, in my humble opinion, I mean, we've mentioned it on the podcast, he was one that was like one of the boys that got a bit of stick off the Tynecastle faithful. I've been at the games where he's maybe played out of position, to be fair to him, but
the Hearts fans don't have a clue what they're talking about. What they say.
But by the way, he has been brilliant. Like he has been. I'm
right,
sure.
So who's he getting ahead of though?
Well, that's the problem.
So it's unrealistic to think Harry Milne is getting in the squad ahead of or Andy Robertson or Tierney. You could say he's a backup. So who backs him up?
Aye, well, but then you've got obviously Hickey, etc., that can play both sides. Do you know what I mean? I didn't envy Steve Clarke's, and I listened to Dale actually saying that.
I'd love to know who Harry Milne. Unrealistic, unless you want me in the squad as a squad player, and there's players there that can do that.
They'd be the four that you'd naturally. Finlay, Halkett, Harry Milne, and obviously Shanks is. Shanks will obviously be on the plane if he's fit, but. They ones obviously with these friendlies coming up, you thought he might have just gave a wee sniff at just to have a look at, if you know what I mean. But I did listen to Dale on Sky Sports saying that he obviously it's Steve's opinion, he has to respect it, but it doesn't mean that he agrees with it. Well, and he's right, because he wants obviously for a Hearts perspective, when the boys are doing so well and they've been brilliant for Dale, he'll want to see the boys get international recognition, and rightly so, because everybody wants that, don't they? But the flip of that is the guys that are actually in the squad, you'd be the same as a player. Like when you're in there, you're backing yourself against somebody that's not getting in there. Do you know what I mean? So they're that competitive nature. And ultimately, listen, it's Steve's decision. I think it makes it that wee bit harder one, I think, for Hearts players to stomach, because they have had such a brilliant season.
Yeah.
And then you feel as though, like, what more can we do?
Aye, if they don't get in it now, when are we getting it?
Aye, but I suppose that would be the sore one for them. But listen, we've continually talk.
Dave, can you tell us the Scotland squad centre backs?
Cool.
Because I'm thinking Halkett could have been in there ahead of Jack Henry.
What would they normally pick? Could they normally pick 5 centre backs? 5 centre backs, 4 full backs, or no? It might even just be 4 centre backs.
So the defenders, Hanley, Henry, McCrory, McKenna, Suter. That's it.
I would take it. I would take him ahead of Jack Henry.
And you've got like boys like Ryan Pochers who's doing well obviously over in America. Do you know what I mean? He'd probably be a wee bit disappointed. I think the Big John next door is he's probably in the squad and rightly so. But I thought Diego and Fernandez were excellent on Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see in these next 7 games how much football John Souttar actually plays. Which is another one that come the summer. Steve Clarke. Do you pick John Souttar because he's experienced, you know how good he is, and he's tried and tested, and then he's not played for a couple of months, you know, leading into a World Cup that they'll have some obviously build up games, etc. But that would be an interesting one if a Halkett finishes the season on a high, potentially getting a league winners medal, and then you get somebody that you're in direct competition for to get in the squad that's then no playing, if that makes sense. So I suppose these are all twists and turns that could come to fruition in the next few weeks.
When I played at Wolves, I remember Mick McCarthy coming in the treatment room one day and he was saying, when he was Ireland boss, the best thing he ever done, he had done really well as Ireland boss, didn't he? Go to the semis, the World Cup or the quarters. He said that he treated it like a club. So even though it didn't matter what you were doing for your club, he would pick based on what you'd done for Ireland under him, which I thought was interesting, because sometimes if you get a rapport with a manager and you gain his trust and he gets the best for you, then why would you worry what's happening at a club when you, obviously, if you're playing and you're fit or you're ready to be called up? I thought that was interesting. I wonder if Steve Clarke, that's a bit of his thinking.
I do think there is a loyalty thing there, isn't there? And fans might say, oh no, it's like he's in
and
form.
the trust in it.
Aye, but I think in form can sometimes be taken out of context as if like you're in form, you're doing well for your club, but it doesn't then mean that you're a better player than somebody that's not doing particularly well at a club.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That has to come into it as well. Do you know what I mean? Because you can't just say, "Oh, this team's doing well," and you're playing well in that team, and then that team's not doing well. Like, and I'll just use John as an example. Big Suits, he might be playing in a struggling Rangers team, but he might be the best player.
And and another point with that is, like, if you look at Souttar, who's maybe not playing at Rangers just now, he's played in Europe. Steve Clarke's seen him in Europe. I mean, Halkett's it's all right in the Scottish Premiership, and I think he could. I'm not saying he can't play in Europe or he can't play at that level, but I'm saying Steve Clarke needs to have a trust in you and seeing you at that level and saying, can you handle? Because it's completely different. You play against Motherwell, Kilmarnock, and it's all right keeping clean sheets. You go and play at international levels, another level, isn't it?
It is. And listen, Hearts are rightly so going to get European football next year. Do you know what I mean? What that looks like is yet to be seen. But
imagine in the Champions League.
It would be amazing, obviously, but whether they get there or they don't.
A good stadium for a Champions League game, wouldn't it? And they could imagine
brilliant. It's a brilliant stadium, Tynecastle. Like, can you imagine a Champions League game in Man City or Barcelona coming to? Like, Barcelona just took 7 off of Newcastle, mate.
Imagine them coming.
That'd be amazing, though. I'd want it. As a football fan, I'd want to go and watch.
I might go and sit amongst the Hearts ultras.
I've got my Callie's family. They've got about 7 or 8 season tickets, so I can see me and you sitting in the Wheatfield, mate.
We've got them in the Champions League. I think they can go. I think they'll get to the last 16. Hearts will be in the last 16 of the Champions League next year.
Nothing would surprise me, mate. It's football, but it's for one of the Edinburgh clubs, mate, to get to the Champions League would be unbelievable for Scottish football.
So I've been to a Champions League game at Man City in their stadium, and I'm telling you, a Champions League night in Tynecastle would be much better.
100%.
Be far better, wouldn't it?
The tune would be buzzing, eh? The only bit is you can only get 20,000 fans in it.
I bet you can imagine how loud it would be, how close to the pitch it would be.
It'd be brilliant, mate. I still remember them playing against Spurs, which I don't know if that would have been UEFA Cup. It would have been named back then. I remember them playing against Spurs. I don't know if Harry Redknapp was maybe the Spurs manager at the time, and I remember watching the game. And I'm sure they played a French team as well. One time, but the atmosphere was unbelievable, mate. Eh?
Dave, get TalkSport bet up, see what odds they are to win the Champions League next year, Hearts.
See, before we move on, Scotland did actually bring another centre back in, Dominic Keim. Have you heard of him?
He played with Blackburn. He's now he came with Coventry. Now,
he's at Wrexham this season. He's played.
Okay, so there's a shout for you, Dominic Keim, right? Who's Halkett. He's not played a lot of football for Scotland. In fact, I don't even know if he's got a cap. Halkett should be in before him.
Aye,
That's one I don't understand.
Maybe Steve's a wee bit like, I'll have a peek, because he maybe knows what Halkett can do and he's watched them domestically regularly, if you know what I mean. But aye, I think when you look at any squad, even when we were playing, you probably backed yourself to be in that squad. And listen, I never played obviously for the national team anywhere near as much as you did, but when you were playing and you knew you were hitting the squad, you have that wee bit as if like you feel like you deserve to be in there.
Tom, I swear to God, right, this is no word of a lie, right? I had obviously 44 caps, and there was times where I was a regular in the squad for long spells. Every single time I was nervous for the squad coming out.
Oh yeah.
Thinking, hope I'd be in it. And see, when I got the call, I'd usually get the phone call in the morning or a message for Frank, who was a guy that everybody knew.
The money man.
And I used to the money man used to hand you
the envelope.
That's right. You used to get expenses when you were away, so Frank would hand out the envelope.
You used to get like £300 or something when you used to go away for a few days.
So if it was more, if it was longer.
I remember going away with the 21s. I think it might have been Ross McCormack. I'm sure it was Roscoe. Come away with 21s, and I think you used to get half. I think you used to get like 300 or 360 maybe in this first team squad. I think you got 180. So it was like £60 a day.
Wait a minute, mate. I'm sure in a 10-day trip you were nearly sick.
10-day trip. But see, like if you just went away, so see, back in the day, I think when you used to go, like say if you had like a double header but you were here, we never used to get it. And then see, then if you went, let's just say you went to Belarus. I remember going to Belarus and you were away like, and the 21s would play on the Tuesday, and then you'd go to the first team game on the Wednesday, so you would all fly out on the Tuesday.
That's right.
And then you get like maybe 3 days expenses. Anyway, I just remember Roscoe. I'm sure it was Roscoe sitting on the bus, and person comes up. It wouldn't have been Frank at the time because he would have been with the first team, and you get your envelope. And us Hibs boys were on a bag of chips and a bottle of pop, so we were like, I couldn't wait for my £150 or £180, whatever it was.
It was brilliant, man. So
brilliant, mate.
What they started to do, so see with the first team, they started to hand the envelopes out when you arrived, or the day you arrived, right? But no, it started to happen. Boys would turn up and get their envelope and then
go home,
injured and go home. So they clicked onto this. No, they waited till you were on the bus going to the airport, and they would come up the bus and start dishing out. But it was a lovely wee envelope, wasn't it?
Quite a few of the lads were on a fortune to.
No, just turned it up.
21s, mate. I'm not joking. Me, Scotty, Whitty, Gaz, Deeks, when we were kind of all in that 21 squad together. And I remember like
in the airport buying Toblerones and all that.
I'm not joking. I'm like, man, that was like that. Keep me going for a few weeks, mate. That money, buying cash in your pocket, man.
Buying the heat pills that you sleep with.
I'm sure it was Roscoe, mate. Obviously, the big boys at the big hitters at the Old Firm. They were obviously earning a few quid as young lads, So the money probably wasn't quite as important to them as it was to us. I remember like Roscoe getting his envelope and as if like looking at him as if thinking he'd be buzzing. It was like pocket change to him.
Exactly.
That was us, mate. We were like, that keep us going for a month.
It was brilliant getting that money, man.
It was good, Motherwell, 3 games without a win.
Aye. What do you think? Think they're think Hibs will finish above them?
Oh. Well, they've still obviously played them in the top 6, haven't they?
And if they do, how does that look in Bertolaescu? Do you think that kills their seat? Do you think that makes it look like a...
Nah, but it's obviously it's amazing that like if you didn't pick up a few good results and you're not at your brilliant best, how high you've set the bar that people start to.
Well, I've heard people saying that they're back to what they were at the very start of the season, where they don't look like they've got anything in the final third.
I was listening to Lee Miller on the radio on the way to Ibrox. Obviously, he was doing updates for the game, and he painted a picture that Maswinishi was a frustrated individual because he wasn't getting the ball quick enough. Eliza Just has obviously been the kind of the difference maker in recent weeks, getting their goals. But listen, I think they deserve all the credit they get, and I don't think it's going to change the narrative. But if they do end up finishing 5th, if the Highbees do, and Dave and his team's probably come under a bit of flack as well because they've maybe not been the most exciting to watch, have they? But then going to Motherwell, how good Motherwell have been, and I actually remember watching the game. When Hibs went to Motherwell the previous game, and it was a midweek game Tuesday night, my boys actually went to it, and Motherwell were unbelievable that night, and they proper put the Highbees to the sword. So you could argue sometimes when you watch back previous games for Dave, it's no sticking up for Dave because he's my mate, but maybe going and being hard to beat and be robust and playing against the good Motherwell teams. Maybe people are starting to work Motherwell out a wee bit, saying that we cannot get after them. We do need to be a wee bit more resilient and maybe treating Motherwell a bit like going and playing against Rangers and Celtic, where you're really compact and narrow and defend your box with numbers and maybe do try and hit in the counter. I think from Motherwell's perspective, they've probably been able in the past to break that down, and maybe in recent weeks they've maybe not quite been as eccentric as they can be in the final third.
I think when you've done that well and everybody's talking about you can then sometimes teams can then sit off you a wee bit, like you're saying, and it is harder. It becomes a completely different prospect, whereas people go, it's only Motherwell will press them and they pop it around you and end up winning games. But listen, for me, better ask you, I can't speak any more highly than I've already done.
What with the Hybees? He comes under a wee bit of flack, Dave, but I think he's a wee bit catalyst to a bit like Motherwell, set the bar so high after such a, you couldn't make up the start that Hibs had last season under Dave, and he was probably that Aberdeen game comes to mind.
Wasn't he?
Aye, and we obviously know that he presented to the board about the goals, the chances that they were creating, it was coming, and probably hanging on for dear life as such, and rightly so. Obviously an unbelievable reputation for his goal in the Scottish Cup final and he'll be a legend forever in the eyes of the Hybees, but a lot of the word on the street is a wee bit like he's running his course as such.
Well, they backed him in the recruitment department, didn't they? Like when you see,
well, look what they brought in January.
Yeah, so they've backed him. So I think it's a big season for him next year. I think he's done enough, steadied enough this year, but I think next year it's huge. But you think about the task he's got ahead of him now.
I think they have to have a strong finish to the season. I think if they go out with a whimper and huff and puff and end up finishing like a soft fifth and didn't put some sort of big performances together in the bigger games when the top six comes round, I think it's it leaves a wee bit of hangover over the summer, doesn't it?
So where do Hibs fans want to finish? What's realistic for them?
I think every season
Hearts have killed them a bit in terms of what they've done this year.
I think Hibs fans now, with investment into the squad, with Ron Gordon, rest his soul, coming in and putting investment in.
What will be their budget in the league?
I think there'll be, well, obviously the word on the street is Aberdeen are paying astronomical money to some players, but I would hazard a guess that Hibs are slightly under Hearts and Aberdeen, but probably no far behind. But listen,
so
it might
budgets will look like Rangers top, Celtic top.
I'd imagine Rangers and Celtic will be similar.
Rangers, Celtic.
I'd hazard a guess. I'm just throwing numbers out there. I hazard a guess that Celtic and Rangers will have a wage bill up near 50 million, minus transfers.
I can't calculate that. What that even?
Mad. I reckon it'll be somewhere in between 45 and 50 million, but I reckon up closer to 50.
So do you think that regard what your budget is should replicate where you are in the league? So Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Aberdeen, Hibs. You think that would be the way we go?
Well, there you go. So the easiest way to prescribe that to everybody is if you've got 50 million budget at Rangers and you've got 50 million budget at Celtic, only one of them can win the league. Mm-hmm. So does that mean one of them have failed? And then it's the same if it Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen.
But what I'm trying to say is Aberdeen have failed.
They
should be in the top six.
I think what Aberdeen have spent, when you look at probably the disparity between a team like Motherwell, a team like Falkirk.
So where do Hibs come in there then?
So I reckon Hibs would be. I think Hibs would be. Well, they'll be in the top 5 budget, so they're sitting in 5th in the league. So it's a wee bit.
So that then.
But I think when you put that budget in place, I think that Hibs fans would. When you talk about Motherwell, you think obviously the manager, and rightly so, is getting the plaudits that he deserves because of the football that he plays on a smaller budget. And he's took the league by storm. He's had all the plaudits, and rightly so. His players have had the same. The recruitment's been spot on. He's got the best out of when you even think he like Stephen O'Donnell, Paul McGinn's, guys that have been tried and tested. It's different, maybe the style suits an Elliot Watt, or it suits a Elijah Just, a Maswinishi. Do you know what I mean? These type of, but he's getting the best out of the players, not just the ones that he's signed, also the ones that he's inherited. I would say that
he's adding value to these players as well.
Aye, which is a sign of a good coach, isn't it?
So then, what a manager judged on their budget in relation to their league position, what they're doing with players in terms of improving them and making them valuable for the board. So this is what probably you need to judge it on. Hibs are sitting in a place where their budget probably reflects that. But then again, are they selling MD? Is there any players in there you think Dave Gray's made them better and knew they should move on? Or do you think that they're just... I mean, McGrath, I think, is a very good player, but he's no getting linked anywhere, is he? Like, he's no...
Nah, because he's been a boot, Jamie, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? So, but then you've got a Grant Hanley who probably picks up quite a big premium when it comes to wages because of his experience and because of the level that he's played at. And he's been really good for Hibs. He's obviously picked up a wee injury here or there. I'm sure he hurt his calf against Rangers maybe 6 weeks back or whatever. But Grant Hanley's like, he's a different part of the business, if that makes sense. But then
he helps the young boys come through. He helps the new signings. He helps
Josh Mulligan, a Jamie McGrath. Do you know what I mean? Like
Barlaser obviously on loan for Middlesbrough, but Tannadice was another one. So like sometimes when you bring in these players, like Tannadice, I think was a huge miss on loan for Sunderland last year. Probably as good as any Hibs player last year. And then you get someone like a Boyley who's, still the talisman really. Obviously just touched 400 games, but I recorded my quickest ever speed chasing Boyley. Got a 9.3 metres per second. Type that in, see how quick that is.
You need to be quick to keep up with Boyley. But Boyley's obviously...
he says that about me.
Like if you've played 400 games, you're coming closer to the end of your career than you're at the start of your career, if that makes sense.
So is there any day that Dave Gray's improved that Hibs are looking to... Because Hibs are a club that would sell.
Aye.
Is there any day there that would...
Well, they've just brought in the boy, obviously, Owen Eldon for Ireland, who I thought has made a really good start to his Hibs career. Only a 19-year-old lad. I don't know if he's turned 20 since he's signed. But he's won like a 400 grand investment. I think the one that the fans, my mates, kind of talk about is Kalidji. Obviously, big investment. I think it was excess of £1 million. Didn't quote me on it. 1.2, I'm sure, was the number that was reported. Away out on loan after 5 months of being at the club. Also one that didn't make that much. And I actually think he's a good player. But then he's obviously went a different dynamic. They've been linked with Lyndon Dykes at different times. They then bring in Soto, who's obviously similar to like a Kieran Bibby, but they've also sold Kieran Bibby for £6 million.
There we go. I forgot about him.
Aye, that's
so Dave
I think us as fans, but
so how much £7 million?
I think Kieran Bibby cost 400 or 500 grand or 600 grand, something like that.
Well, there you go. Dave deserves credit for that.
Aye.
He's got them fifth where their budget should be, and he's selling players for £7 million. He's made him a better player.
And I think the one that hurts Hibs is if you can have a steady Eddie season, finishing third, it's hard to then finish third again.
Yeah.
You can finish third or fourth, maybe fifth might just be enough. But I think the cups were a sore one for them.
Yeah.
They obviously beat at Ibrox against Rangers, knocked out the Scottish Cup against Dunfermline. I think was a sore one. 4,500, nearly up to 5,000 Hibs fans travel through to Dunfermline that day. I think that was a sore one for them. Mm-hmm. But they've always found a way of bouncing back. The draw against Livingston just last week, dropping points against Dundee, and then another 0-0 against Motherwell. I feel anyway. I'm saying I feel, but when I speak to my mates that go and watch every week, they feel as though it's just the season's petering out a wee bit, and it's just become a wee bit stale. So I'm hoping that they can kick on in these last 7 games, the big games at Easter Road, the big crowds. Obviously, they are going to finish in the top 6. The big games give you that wee extra edge. I think if they can finish with some sort of momentum, then it'll give them a good period to reset and go again in the summer. And then obviously, as you know, you're judged on how you started the season, and I would imagine Hibs fans will want to see come...
The derby after the split will be big.
Aye, obviously with being back at Easter Road, but then they were brilliant in the last derby at Easter Road. Do you know what I mean? So, and if
get sunshine on Leaf on, man, get that.
Aye, listen, I obviously, you know I'm a Hibby, so I want to see Hibs do well, and I want to see Dave do well, because obviously I know him personally. But aye, he probably does come into that bracket where he's got a brilliant job, because it's a brilliant club, great resources, it's a brilliant training facility at East Mains. But I do think he has recruited well. I feel as though like maybe the exciting attacking football has maybe not quite been there this year. And I think when you're then maybe suffering a few poor results, I think the Hibs fans get a bit tetchy, and they want to see that. When people have like an unwritten rule at a club, I think Hibs fans have that unwritten rule that they would not get beat, because that sounds really stupid, but they want to see their team having a go and be quite attacking. I would say that would be like what a Hibs fan perspective would look like. And I'm not so sure they would accept winning 1-0 every week, banging it long. But then listen, you win 1-0 every week, banging it long, you find yourself at the top end of the table.
Well, you get away with it for so long until you start getting a run of defeats, and then listen, big season for him next year. Davey boy. Right, David.
Question time.
Question, let's go. What we got this week? By the way, we've not been prepared for any of these, so if you put us on the spot and we start stuttering, give us a minute.
So the first question of the week is from 20 Minute Tim's. And
20 Minute Tim's.
Who's that? Is that a family?
Is that your mate?
I think they seem quite angry from the
Quite angry, is he?
from the tone of the question.
20 Minute Tim's.
What are Celtic's tactics? Simple question, needs an answer.
Is that what you said? Needs an answer?
Aye.
Okay, so here's my opinion on it, right? Celtic's tactics are very similar to what they've been since Ange Postecoglou for me. 4-3-3. Dominate the ball, control the game. No big physical players up top to play direct. And that's what they've done for years. Now here's the twist. Martin O'Neill's coming in. He's always been a manager that's done the simple things well and went direct. Been more open to going direct. And they don't have the players for it. So I think for me, Celtic are stuck between two tactics. Do we go direct, like they did against Dundee United when they were pressed up high for goal kicks? Dundee United forced them long. But then you're kicking it to Iheanacho, who, by the way, is probably Celtic's best striker in terms of holding the ball in, but he's not going to bully the centre-halves in the air.
Giants, the three back.
And then you're trying to pick up second balls and dominate the game for there. And the pitch was full of sand and wasn't good for short passes playing football. I said it before, Ange Postecoglou's team managed to come to Tannadice and do it and get through the game. But I picture players like Tom Rogic and you can go through the team then, it was completely different. Now when you play against a back five, do you want to go to this board here, Paul?
Let me ask you a quick question first. See when you talk about tactics, like if 3-5-2, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, like would you say a tactic is totally different for a style?
I think a formation is different to a style.
Aye, so the formation, so the tactic. So would you say a tactic and a formation is similar, but then, like, how would you prescribe Celtic's style of play?
Okay, so Celtic's style of play is high press when they don't have the ball, which against teams like Dundee United you don't get a chance to do because they don't play short.
Right,
so that takes that out of the equation. If you're set up to press a team high, we want to press you for the front. A lot of times Scotland you can't because they just play long.
But would you say that I would counteract that and say I think if Celtic play a high press against United and they bang it long, Celtic should be good enough to just regain and go again. So you could argue that is a good way of pressing the ball. Do you know what I mean? So
to make them play it for a higher bit.
You're making them play it for deeper.
Yep.
It's going to have less quality. It also, as a defender, gives you more time to get set to be in the right position because the ball's travelling further.
Totally agree. I think it's the right thing to do. But then you need to win the.
Aye, and it's the next bit that's probably been the problem for Celtic.
You need to win the header, first ball, and then you need to win second balls, and then you need to smooth the play out. And when I say smooth the play out, I mean, like, if you go to the tactics board here, Paul, now you win that header, you get it, and now you get control of the game. And when you play against a back five like Dundee United, here you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some people claim it's a 3, right? It's a 5. The reason you make it a 5 is you push your wingers on high and wide. That means that their wing backs can't then press the full backs because they're leaving this guy 1v1 with a centre back, and that's an ideal scenario. So what they end up doing is basically shiting themselves and sitting back in a 5, and you then dominate the game.
Themselves worked, mate.
Aye. No, what I'm saying is in a perfect scenario, and then what happens is you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Celtic players in this central area versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to dominate the ball and control it and move it round until then you progress into the final third. But teams that sit back in a 5, and I always found that when a team played a back 5, even against Ange Postecoglou, teams, it caused them issues because they love their number 8 when the ball goes wide here to the winger. Traditionally, if there's only a back 4, they run in these gaps and they get slipped on the side and cross it in the box. But I found against a 5, this guy would play it wide, he would be running onto a defender.
Would you say that Nygren's the only player for Celtic that's willing to run without the ball and cause disruption, and not just United's backline, but any backline? It's the one thing I would say Celtic, when you think of Hatate, McGregor, even Engels at times when he was playing, It's the one thing that they've probably no had, which I think for a Celtic team is almost like it's a given. That type of player that like always arrives in the box.
I'm not even sure on Nygren. Well, Nygren does arrive in the box.
He does.
He arrives in the box.
He might not be one that goes and runs beyond as such, but he's arriving in the box. He's running forward without the ball, isn't he?
Yeah.
Which is obviously when any team, obviously using United as an example, any team that are scrambling back when Celtic are at their best, facing their own goal, and when Nygren's arriving in that box, whether it be cut back passes, we've seen the one where obviously Romans cut back to Mikey Moore, that type of profile of player, do you know what I mean? Arriving in the box, multiple players in the box. It feels to me like watching Celtic, and I can sense the frustration with the fans is that they didn't ever seem to have sustained pressure.
No.
And a real imagination in the final third.
So sustained pressure in this would be they get Dundee United back in a back five, they rotate the ball back the way and they start to dominate with these 7 versus the Dundee United 5. And then when you're ready to progress, just say one of the Dundee United players jumps out here, you slip one of the Celtic midfield out to the full back presses, then you're now attacking their back line. And that's where you need to be creative and get players in the box, try and get players wide down in these areas to get balls in the box. Low, hard balls, low across the front. But at that point, you need to get 4 and 5 people in the box. Celtic are crossing balls for deep yesterday with nobody in the box. And you're crossing it onto centre backs
that's bread and butter for them.
Bread and butter. You need 4 and 5 in the box. It's not as if you've got like a Sutton in there even, or a Hartson where you can put it in and go, right, he'll fight up.
No, but it's not Celtic way, that is it really? Or what we've seen over the years. You're mentioning Sutton and Hartson, of course, obviously.
Well, there you go.
Machines, but then back then when a Sutton and Hartson played, you had a Petrov arriving in the box.
Well, there you go, Thomas. So I'm mentioning Sutton and Hartson, and I'm mentioning the name. I think they're coming to my mind because Martin O'Neill's a manager. So when I look back at a Martin O'Neill team, go back to all his teams that he's managed, they're very simple in their approach. They get the ball wide, they put it in the box, they play forward, they make defenders defend. Celtic style under Brendan Rodgers was very horseshoe, keep the ball, get control, wait for the right moment. It was very successful. But now you've got a wee bit in between. So off the ball stuff is no great. You see it against Motherwell, it was good, but against other teams just usually go long, so you need to pick up seconds and then dominate the ball. On that surface at Tannadice, they couldn't do it, and they're a wee bit in between for me. Crossing balls in, which Martin, like Kieran Tierney put some great balls in, but the best balls that I always feel at this area here, I think that's more dangerous. You put balls in the box, but again, there's no the right bodies in the box for me.
Normally when Celtic are at their best away, like a lot of the balls are normally coming through like in these areas, like getting in behind slips, like cutbacks, like clever imagination in these final thirds, and then like making like an opposition really, really crisis defend their box. Whereas at times when you watch Celtic, albeit, listen, they have been good at different times. It's just, you've mentioned the word loads of times on this podcast, it's that consistency. And I think the consistency, and I think it might be the Achilles heel for Celtic, which goes back to January, is they've not invested in the front line the way they should have, and that might have gave them that X factor in the final third, which they just didn't seem to have.
So under Ange Postecoglou, would you say they had it?
Well, I think they had it because of the tempo and the I actually think Ange Postecoglou's team. Listen, you had Kyogo, who was absolutely brilliant, and he could create a chance out of nothing.
Yeah,
because of how clever he was. His movement was second to none. One of the best.
But that Ange Postecoglou team, right, were so drilled in this, Tom, right, that there was no other. They weren't allowed to play high crosses in. It used to go mad. You're only allowed to shoot from outside the box. Turnbull never played. They got to this area here. They knew every single time that whoever was in this area, whether it be a number 8 that's made a run or whether it be a fullback or a winger, you think of the amount of times defenders would be back defending. They would have a winger in the back post. The striker every single time
would be between the sticks.
That ball gets smashed across there the amount of times a striker tapped in, right? This would make defenders go deeper and kill that space. And the opposite number 8 was either there for a cutback and a goal. There was always 3, sometimes 4 inside the box when this ball was done in this area. And they knew smash across, cut it back, and it was a goal the amount of times. So they knew exactly Kyogo knew where it was going to go. The opposite number 8 knew he was there for the cutback, and the winger had to be in the box. It was clear as day. They used to do attacking patterns before games. Just now, it's a nose clear for me. It's a wee bit in between.
No, I agree, mate. It's and visually, I'm thinking there how many times I watched an Ange Postecoglou team and how many times that the shot would get blocked and somebody would put their body on the line to block it. Then it would fall to another Celtic player, and then he'd hit it and it would get blocked again.
Bodies in the box,
bodies
mate.
In the box. It just doesn't feel as though they've got that. And listen, I've said it a million times before. You would never write them off, but I'm probably contradicting myself, thinking that saying I'm trying to be a wee bit neutral when it comes to the Celtic fans being really frustrated with the recruitment, and they probably have got it wrong in January. But listen, they might still get over the line, but I still didn't think that'll be enough for Celtic fans, will it?
I think they're relying heavily on the squad, because Martin O'Neill likes to have good players. Obviously, every manager does, but he's obviously got good history of signing top players. I think January, whatever he was given or allowed to bring in, it's clear as day there that it's not working. That was a good question.
Good question, Dave.
Dave, aye?
Who was that off again?
20-minute Tims, I think, and we're absolutely delighted at that.
Next question, Dave.
Here's one from Graham McInnes. So Rangers looked a different class at the weekend, especially in the second half. As a professional player, does it have any effect on you when the other team puts in a really good performance?
What?
How do you mean?
So say, for example, you were watching Celtic and they'd won 5-0 and they put in a great performance and it was a tight league title race.
Oh, right.
Would you be affected by that, thinking they're good?
No, but I think Hearts and Celtic will both realise that the Rangers were good at the weekend. And I always think, like, the team that builds a bit of momentum going into the end of the season, like, I've been in title races where you build momentum and you get over the line, or I think a UEFA Cup final season and we were like Walking Dead almost, you know what I mean? And Celtic were building momentum and you could feel them coming, and you know what I mean? And then you have another couple poor results, and obviously we had a big schedule that year, but I think this year, and listen, it'll change again because we'll speak about something different next Monday, but I do think off the back of the results at the weekend, Rangers' performance will give everybody real optimism for the next 7 games, just because of how dominant they were. But listen, Aberdeen are in a difficult moment, so you have to put it into context. But the goals they scored and the freedom that they played with, the energy within the team, I thought was excellent. The impact of the subs that come on, easier to come on for playing for Rangers or Celtic when the team's winning.
Yep.
I think it would be obvious if Gassama come on, Antman come on, and it was 0-0 with 20 minutes to play, and the crowd are on people's back, and there's the animosity within the stadium makes it more difficult to play. So I think you have to take all these factors into consideration. But I thought I left Ibrox and got into my car, and as I say, when I spoke to my dad, I felt that people within that title race will have realised how dominant Rangers were and how good they looked.
I think playing last in a weekend or second after the team that are your title rivals are playing before you and they win
hard.
Is much harder. I think that's been a big advantage to Hearts this year. So whoever rigged that at the SPFL needs investigated. I think it's a big advantage. I also think when they're winning 3-4 and 5-0, you're like you begin to think they're not getting beat, so that adds even more pressure. Although Celtic score last minute goals, I've said it like there's no 1 point in that game I'm thinking 2-0 down they'll be fine, or 1-0 down they'll be fine. I think that only lasts so long, and you'll get moments where you might score last minute goals. You need to go and put teams to bed. Like, see in Iacho's chance, the minute he misses that, I'm thinking Celtic are only creating 5 good chances a day. You need to put away the chances. So for me, it does have an effect. If you're winning and winning comfortably, it begins to create a narrative in the other team's mind that you can't be beat, or it's harder to beat, or you're going to win comfortably and you're going to pick up wins. So yeah, the big thing for me is playing last or second after the team that have won.
The one thing I would say, and it's not because of the point, but just when it was coming off the top of my tongue there, I don't think everybody else out with Rangers, Hearts and Celtic, I don't think the other teams fear the 3 teams as much as what they would normally.
I agree with you, Tom, on that.
But then obviously, same again, kind of feel as though like that's doing Rangers a disservice how dominant they were on Saturday. But over the course of the season, I mean that like
that would have been more of a surprise that it was 4-1 than previous season where you went, normal result at Ibrox. You know what I mean?
Even though that's put in the context, Aberdeen are obviously in a brilliant position themselves. But I would say that there's even Dundee going to Tynecastle and Hearts sitting top of the league, you still feel as though Dundee have got enough in them to get some sort of result. Whereas if maybe Dundee in the past, when I was there going to Celtic Park, you could get hit for 5 or 6. Well, I was there as a Dundee player and got hit for 6. You played in it.
100%.
So I didn't feel, and I think that's a good omen for Rangers in the respect of beating Aberdeen by 4. The one that was chopped off, they probably could have had another couple. It might just stand them in good stead for these next 7 games to go, just because they are Hearts only scoring the 1, Celtic a game without scoring. It might just be the difference.
A follow-up question here from Graham. He's saying,
"What's this the same guy?"
Same guy.
Dave's wrote these out in his phone. He's in his notes now.
What are you saying?
This is your question, isn't it?
It's gonna sound like it's my question. So,
is that about Shermatty?
It's not. It's about how good do you think this CB partnership of Giga and Fernandez is?
Brilliant.
You've already said that.
Which I thought. I think Fernandez profile. Listen, it's the way he plays. It's his personality. He's got to be one where he maybe could go back to Jack Butland and he has a wee swivel and it looks great. And we've seen him at times maybe have that wee swivel on the edge of the box and get caught out with it. But I think he's growing and growing and growing. He's obviously didn't quote me on his height, but I think he's 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". You know what I mean? He's an absolute monster. And he can play, mate. He can handle the ball. Aggressive in both 6'7", is he? But aggressive in both boxes. And Diego, I thought Dave was really good. Recovery speed, powerful.
6'7", I just made that up.
Is that? My kids will be buzzing, mate. I think he actually might be. You know, he is.
Is he?
He's absolutely massive. Dave will find out what size he is. He's huge, mate. But I think Rangers have.
How tall is he? But
you could argue, mate. You could 6 or 7. You could argue they've stumbled across it a wee bit, haven't they? Because I'm not so sure they were first choice. And
results speak for themselves, mate, don't they? Really?
6'6". Kids will be gutted.
I've read that you guys get the best defensive stats in the SPL for a defender.
Honestly, Saturday I thought when Olasanya come on, but they both stood up to it. The physical challenge, because Olasanya's a powerful lad, puts himself about. But I think, and I didn't want to write off Big John, but he could find himself, if they both stay fit with the ages they are, the profile they're at. Am I right in saying somebody said that the buy clause for Giga's £8 million?
9 million.
It's a lot of money, but
is he worth that?
It's a lot of money, mate, for a centre back in Scotland, obviously, in all due respect. But
they would need to see a way of selling him potentially.
Listen, I think Fernandez. When we spoke about Hibs earlier about the assets that they've got within the group, Danny Rowe needs an enormous amount of credit for making the boys better.
How far can he go, Fernandez?
Profile wise, mate, he'll tick out. We know that we live in an industry now that's in recruitment it's all data ticked, isn't it? So 6'6", right age, fast, aggressive in both boxes, can play in the Premier League easy for him.
Anywhere,
He can go where he wants, and I think he'll when you think of Calvin Bassey having that season, albeit it was a Seville season, going for what, 25 million quid, what turn that was for Rangers. They bought him for 250 grand off of Leicester. So I think Fernandez, albeit I've heard the boy from Peterborough talk about that they've got a big sell on, but I think he'll go for big bucks, mate, and rightly so, because he's been brilliant.
Will Russell Martin get the credit for bringing him in?
Might help pay off some of Russell Martin's payoff that he's due.
There's quite a lot of Twitter journalists saying that he's going to be leaving Rangers at the end of the season. Quite a few teams like Club Brugge and West Ham preparing bids for him. Doesn't
surprise me. He'll get, and I think that
means until Romano's tweeted it.
Until he breaks the news on Twitter. It's but I think he'll have loads of suitors, Dave. I think the list will just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Okay, so question for basically Charlie, this one, or for both of you. Paul Crawford, what's your sort of like list of the next potential Celtic managers?
List. So I had Joe Ledley on pitched to par in the golf the other day, and he put a name in my head, Craig Bellamy, and he spoke really highly of him, and something made sense about that. So mine would be Bertalascu, Craig Bellamy. I'd like to see, I don't know his name, but I'd like to see the Bodo Glimt manager be spoke to. I don't know how realistic that is.
Robbie Keane's another one that's been mentioned.
Robbie Keane wouldn't be in mine, and no, because I know I've got anything bad to say about him, just because I don't know enough about. He's been at Ferencváros.
He's done a good job.
He's done a good job, aye. But my three would be Bertalascu, Craig Bellamy, and the Bodo Glimt manager, if you could speak to him.
Would their names be sexy enough for Celtic fans?
Well, I don't know if they are, right? But if they're not, then my question would be, who do you think realistically we can get? Because if you think that we're going to get somebody with an established name, it's unrealistic. Like now, Celtic's a huge club, and anybody that comes loves it, but literally, realistically, it needs to be a chance for them to get into the big time.
They've got to shop in a certain market, though, innit? It has to, I know fans might not see that part, but there'll be a salary at Celtic for the manager, and a certain profile will demand obviously a wee bit extra. A Brendan Rodgers maybe.
But I don't know MD in the category of Brendan Rodgers when they got him that time. Is there MD in that sort of category right now? Martinez we mentioned. I don't fancy Martinez for me.
No, but you've got guys like I'm just throwing it out there like a Gary O'Neill that's went over to Salzburg. Do you know what I mean? Who's obviously managing the Premier League. I think his name was linked with it before. I played with guys at Middlesbrough.
For me, Gary O'Neill, if he's the name people are talking about as being a bigger name, I would prefer Bellamy or Ascot for me.
And then you get like someone like I'm just throwing it out there, like a real random one, like an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. What if Michael Carrick doesn't? Is Michael Carrick too big that if he doesn't get the Man United job and then he looks for another big club, a chance to be successful as a young manager? Like done a brilliant job at Middlesbrough.
You'll get the Man United job though, won't he?
Will he get the Man United job?
I think he will. I think he will get it.
If he doesn't, you feel as though like guys like I know Frank Lampard was linked with going to Rangers. You wonder if he's kind of maybe no name that Celtic would be interested in, but he's obviously done a brilliant job at Coventry. You start to look at like that British type. You've got guys like John Terry in that are on coaching journeys. That I'm sure they would run up the road to be the manager of somewhere like Celtic. And I know you just didn't become a good manager because you were a top player. But I was a wee bit like when I done the media before when I spoke about Rangers getting a manager. I think Celtic should be aiming at the stars because they're such a big club and it's such a brilliant platform for somebody to...
But would you say John Terry would be aiming for the stars? Because that's like a Grookie manager as well.
I know, but then he's also been assistant in the Premier League at Aston Villa. Do you know what I mean? He's been involved at Chelsea, and I think he's Stephen when he first come up the road, he was helping Liverpool under 18s. Do you know what I mean? So I'm a wee bit like, I don't think I think there is good managers out there and there is good coaches. It doesn't like having a big CV can sometimes mean that you've been sacked here, there, or everywhere. Do you know what I mean? And then some people see that as being experienced, and sometimes like the unknown is a risk. I get that, but any appointment's a risk, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone could envision Brendan Rodgers leaving after the period that he left at Celtic. For how experienced Brendan is, how highly he's thought of, how such a great reputation he's got. So I don't think it's always tried and tested that you just think that.
And I think no matter who we think's tried and tested and who we think's a risk, I think MD that comes in, you could almost guarantee they've no managed a team the size of Celtic, a club the size of Celtic. So there's going to be hard times that come amongst that. There's going to be pressure that you've never felt before. If you've managed the Premier League for 20 years, 15 years, you get the Celtic job. You still not felt what it was like to finish second, being last, and to win is like being last, and you need to win every single game. So it's going to be a pressure no matter who. But that would be my three.
Okay, that's actually all the questions for today, guys.
Nice.
We're done.
Amazing.
That was a good episode. Enjoyed that, mate.
Good. I quite like when we go through bit to bit to talk about a bit everybody. Probably the only one we never mentioned was St Mirren. Craig McLeish, great result at Falkirk.
Nah, that was shite. Right. Nah. Good result.
Well done,
Craig. He's done his good. Where's Craig?
And Neely McCann, mate. Kelly.
Yeah. Doing well.
We'll get them next week.
Nah.
The Kelly fans and St Mirren fans will be raging because they'll end up getting beat after the international break, and it'll not be positive stuff.
Craig McLeish, by the way, does he deserve the job?
Why not?
Put his best foot forward. Lenny was mentioned. Be good for St
I hear
Mirren.
Lenny's knocked it back.
Have you?
Interested.
I thought that would be. I thought potentially that would be the case because them filming obviously of.
Well, they're going great guns, aren't they?
Aye.
Cup semi-final to look forward to. Good opportunity now. They'll almost definitely be in the playoffs. Chance to get back.
Lenny will think he can win that cup, won't he?
Oh,
deep down,
100%.
Him versus Martin O'Neill in the final.
Well, and the teams that you could have got, you would.
I would love to see him and Martin O'Neill arguing in the sideline.
Visually, I could visually see that happening. No arguing, but I could see, when you like kind of shut your eyes and see something. I could see Celtic and Dunfermline being in the cup final.
Try to FaceTime him the other day on the golf course, Lenny, to wind him up.
You off.
Raging. He never answered. He just texted saying, "What do you want?" We'll get him. But thanks for joining us on another episode of The Breakdown. It's been a pleasure.